I know my relationship to you. You belong to me. Hey, good morning. It is a beautiful Sunday, and Kafka's calling, so this is the continuity of Letters to Milena by Franz Kafka. And like usual, I won't be reading 3 letters. I'll be reading 5. Because if I kept on reading 3 letters, it would have taken me a really long time to finish. I mean, look at the thickness of this book. It's gonna take me a while. Now that it's out of the way, get yourself comfortable and let's get into today's letter. Once again, I'm taking the letter out of the envelope. There's room right here. Please say do to me. Not all the time. I don't want that at all. Say do once again. If the occasion presents itself and you don't have anything against it, please say something nice to Warford on my behalf. Unfortunately, there are some things you don't respond to at all. For example, the question concerning your writing. Recently, I had another dream about you. It was a big dream, but I hardly remember a thing. I was in Vienna. I don't recall anything about that. Next, I went to Prague and had forgotten your address, not only the street, but also the city. Everything, only the name, Shebird, kept somehow appearing, but I don't know what to make of it. So I had lost you completely. In my despair, I made various clever attempts, which were nevertheless not carried out. I don't know why, I just remember one of them. I wrote on an envelope, Mr. Senka, and underneath, request delivery of this letter because otherwise, the Ministry of Finance will suffer terrible loss. With this threat, I hope to engage the entire government in my search for you. Clever? Don't let this sway you against me. It's only in my dreams that I am so sinister. And that was the end of the first letter. He was going to use the entire government to search for her if he hadn't remembered where she was. If that's not love, I don't know what it is. And the do in the very beginning, it's not D-U-E, it's D-U. That's why I'm pronouncing it strangely. It's D-U, not D-U-E. Now that I've made that clear, let's get into the second letter of the day. June 12, 1920, Saturday. You misunderstand me a little, Milena. I agree with you almost completely. I don't even want to go into the details. I still can't say whether I'm coming to Vienna, but I don't think I am. If I had many reasons against it before, today I have just one. Namely that it would tax my spiritual strength, and as a possible distant, second reason, because this is better for all of us, but I must add that it would be equally beyond my strength, if not more so, if you were to come to Prague under circumstances you described, keeping a person waiting. I need to hear what you want to say. About the 6 months is not just a temporary one. I am convinced it's something terrible. I am convinced you experienced or even committed terrible things. I am convinced I could not have stood being part of them. Even if about 7 years ago I could have enjoyed practically anything, I am also convinced I couldn't stand in such participation in the future. Fine, but what does all this mean? Is it your deeds and experience which are important to me, or isn't it really you, yourself? Even without the story, however, I know you much better than I do myself, by which I don't mean to say I don't know what state my hands are in. Your letter is not opposed to my suggestion. On the contrary, for you right. On the contrary, for you right. Oh, on the contrary, for you right. Most of all, I like to escape along a third road going neither to you nor with him, but somewhere toward solitude. This is my suggestion. Perhaps you were even writing in the same day I was. Of course, if the illness has reached its stage, you cannot leave your husband even temporarily. But as you wrote, it's not a disease which lasts forever. You mentioned only a few months. More than one has already passed, and after one more, you can be spared for a little while. By then, it will only be August, September at the latest. Incidentally, I confess, your letter belongs to those which I read immediately, and even if I had gulped it down 4 times in a row, I still can tell you what I think, at least not right away. Nonetheless, I believe the above has validity. Yours truly, Franz Kafka. That was the end of the second letter, and I was not aware that her husband was sick. See, this is why we need a second POV of her reading. I mean, not of her reading, like another POV of her letters. He's describing the letters to us, but I want to know what it says, right? Full on says, but I guess that's not gonna happen. Which is unfortunate, but there's nothing we can do. With that being said, and it being out of the way, let's get into the third letter, which is about a page and a half. Get yourself comfortable. Let's get going. June 12, 1920. Once again, Saturday. This crisscrossing of letters has got to stop, Milena. It's driving us crazy. One doesn't know what one has written, what has been answered, and in any case, one is in constant trepidation. I understand you check very well. I also hear your laughter, but I keep digging into your letters, borrowing between your words and your laughter until I then hear one single word, one word which, moreover, my very essence fear. I cannot determine whether you still want to see me after my letters of Wednesday and Thursday. I know my relationship to you. You belong to me. You belong to me. And if I should never see you again, these I know, insofar as they do not fall into the indicative realm of fear, but I don't know your relationship to me at all. These belong entirely to fear. Nor do you know me. I repeat this, Milena. You see, as far as I'm concerned, what's happening is incredible. My world is collapsing. My world is rebuilding itself. Wait and see how you, meaning me, survive it all. I'm not lamenting the falling apart. it was already in a state of collapse. What I'm lamenting is the rebuilding. I lament my waning strength. I lament being born. I lament the light of the sun. How will we go on living? If you say yes to my letters, then it is impossible for you to go on living in Vienna. Together with your letters today, I received a letter from Max Brod, mentioned in the first 8 letters, in which, among other things, he writes, "Something strange has happened, which I report to you, at least by way of suggestion. Rainer, the young editor of the Tribuna, they say a very fine and really exorbitantly young man, perhaps 20 years old, has poisoned himself." Wow, that was unexpected. This was while he was still in Prague, I think. Now the reason comes to light. Willie has. Now the reason comes to light. Willie has had an affair with his wife, whose maiden name was Ambrosova, a friend of Milena, Jasenka, which was, however, ostensibly kept within platonic bounds. No one was caught or anything like that. Only the woman so tormented the man whom she had known for years prior to getting married, mainly with her words and her behavior, that he killed himself in his office. That's just brutal, man. Early in the morning, she went with Haz to find out why he hadn't come home after the night shift. He was already in the hospital a night before they arrived. Haz, who was just about to take his last exam, broke off his studies, fell out with his father, and is running a film magazine in Berlin. Apparently, he's not doing very well. The woman is also living in Berlin, and it is expected he will marry her. I don't know why I'm telling you this gruesome story. Perhaps only because the same demon is causing us to suffer, and so the story belongs to us, just as we belong to it. So much for the letter. I repeat, you cannot remain in Vienna. What a terrible story. Once I caught a mole and carried him into Hop's garden. When I tossed him on the ground, he plunged into the earth like a madman, disappearing as if he had dived into water. That is how one will have to write from this story. That's not the point, Milena. As far as I'm concerned, you're not a woman, you're a girl. I've never seen anyone who was more of a girl than you. And girl that you are. I don't dare offer you my hand, my dirty, twitching, claw-like, fidgety, unsteady, hot, cold hand. Franz Kafka. Wow, what's that at the very end about? It's kind of unfortunate that Willie was killed himself because the woman that he was with tormented him. It's unfortunate. But if that's the case, just leave. Don't stay in this kind of relationship. I don't know what it was like back in that time period. Remember, this is like when Germany was at war with the Czech Republic, the Nazi and all that. I don't know what the circumstances were like back then. But if it's that bad, just leave. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the third letter which, oh my lord, it's long. It is 2 pages. Yeah, 2 pages long. Jesus. With that being said, let's get to reading. June 13, 1920, Sunday. Today something which may explain a few things. Milena, what a rich, heavy name, almost too full to lift, and which I didn't like very much at first. It seemed to me a Greek or Roman gone astray in Bohemia, violated by Czech. The accent has been betrayed, and yet the name is marvelous in color and form. A woman to be carried in one's arm, out of the world, out of the fire, I don't know which, and she presses herself into your arms willingly and full of trust. Except the strong accent on the I is bad. Doesn't the name jump right back away from you? Or might that just be a leap for joy, which you yourself perform with your burden? You write 2 types of letters. I don't mean the ones in pen and the ones in pencil, although this pencil itself is significant and enough to make one break up one's ear, but this is not a crucial difference. The last letter, with the map of your apartment, for instance, is written in pencil. It makes me happy nonetheless. You see, the peaceful letters are the ones that makes me happy. Understand, Milena? My age is 38. The fact that I am used up, and above all, my fear and understand your youth, your vivacity, your courage, and my fear is actually growing, since it is a sign of my retreating from the world, which causes the world in turn to exert more pressure, which causes a further increase in fear. Your courage, however, indicate an advance, hence a decrease in pressure, hence an increase in courage. I could sit at the feet of this letter, happy beyond measure, dripping rain on my burning head, but whenever these other letters come, Milena, even if they are basically more auspicious than the first one, although one account of my weakness, it takes me days to penetrate to their happiness. These letters, which begin with exclamations, and after all, I am so far away, and which ends with I don't know what terrible things, then Milena, I literally starts to shake, as if under an alarm bell. I am unable to read them, and actually, I read them anyways, the way an animal dying of thirst drinks. And with that comes the fear, and more fear. I look for a piece of furniture to crawl under, trembling, totally unaware of the world. I pray you might fly back out of the window the way you came, storming inside your letters. After all, I can't keep a storm in your room. In this letter, you undoubtedly have the magnificent head of Medusa, the snake of terror, and quivering about your head is the terror or quivering about your head so widely, while the snake of fear were even more widely about my own. Your letter from Wednesday, Thursday, your letters from Wednesday, Thursday, but child. This actually applies to me, saying Medusa like that. You're taking all my stupid jokes with Zaid and the Chapu and hate in earnest. I just wanted to make you laugh a little. We are misunderstanding one another out of fear. Please don't force me to write check. There wasn't even a trace of reproach in that. I could sooner reproach you for having much too high an opinion of the Jews you don't know, me included. There are others. At times, I like to stuff them all simply as Jews, me included, into, say, the drawer of the laundry chest. Next, I'd wait, open the drawer a little to see if they're all suffocating, and if not, shut the drawer again, and keep doing this to the end. But what I say about your speech was in earnest. Ernst keeps intruding into this letter. Perhaps I am doing him a terrible injustice. I can't think about it, but equally strong in my feeling of being bound to him more and more tightly. I almost said, in life and death, if only I could talk with him, but I'm afraid of him. He's far more than a match for me. You know, Milena, that in going to him, you took one large step down from your own level. But if you come to me, you will be leaping into the abyss. Do you realize that? No, that wasn't my height. In that letter of yours, I was talking about your speech. You meant it in earnest too. I can't be wrong about that. Again, I hear about your illness, Milena. What if you had to stay in bed, and perhaps you should? You may even be lying down as I'm writing this. Wasn't I a better man a month ago? I worried about you, though only in my head. Knew about you being ill. Not anymore. Now I just think about my own sickness and health. However, in any case, both of them. The first as well as the second or you. Franz Kafka. That was the very end of the third letter, which was a hefty one. But it was worth it. Let's keep the commentary and go into the fourth letter, which, holy, it's 2 pages again. Well, 2.5 pages, but you know. June 14, 1920, Monday. Shortly before waking up this morning, it was also shortly after having fallen asleep, I had a horrid, not to say terrifying. Happily, the impression left by dreams fade quickly. That's only a horrid dream. Incidentally, I also owed some sleep, since you don't wake up from such dream until they're over. You can't rest yourself away any sooner because they hold you by the tongue. It was in Vienna, similar to the way I pictured it in my daydreams in case I should travel there. In these daydreams, Vienna consists only of a quiet square, bordered on one side by your house. Opposite is my hotel. To the left is Westbahnhof, When I arrived, to the left of that, the Franz Joseph Bahnhof, from which I depart, and continually located on the ground floor of my hotel is a vegetarian restaurant where I ate not in order to eat, but to bring some sort of weight back to Prague. Why am I telling you this? It doesn't really belong to the dream. Evidently, it still makes me afraid. It wasn't exactly like that. It was a true metropolis towards evening, wet, dark, and inconceivable amount of traffic. A long, rectangular public garden separated the house where I was staying from your own. I had gone to Vienna suddenly, overtaking my own letters which were still on their way to you, a fact which later caused me particular pain. Still, you had been informed and I was supposed to meet you. Fortunately, though at the same time I also resented it. It was not alone. A small group was with me. I was not alone. Wow, a small group was with me, including, I believe, a girl. But I don't know anything more about them. I consider them something like my second. If they had only kept quiet, but they went on talking and talking among themselves, most likely about affairs of mine. I could just hear them murmuring, which made me nervous. I could not and did not want to understand anything. I stood on the edge of the sidewalk to the right of my house and studied yours. It was a low villa with a beautiful, simple, vaulted loggia of stone in front, reaching to the second floor. Then it was suddenly breakfast time. The table was set in the loggia. I watched from the distance as your husband came, sat down in a cane chair on the right, still sleepy and stretching, arm extended. Then you came and sat down in full view behind the table. But I couldn't see you exactly. You were so far away, although I could make out your husband's feature a lot more clearly. I don't know why. You just remained something bluish white, flowing, ghost-like. You had also spread your arms out, but not to stretch. It was more of a ceremonial gesture. Shortly thereafter, but now, it was once again the evening before, you were outside with me. You stood on the sidewalk. I had one foot on the street. I was holding your hand, and now an insanely quick conversation began. All short sentences. It went bang, 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 and lasted almost without interruption throughout the dream. I can't retell it. Actually, I only remembered the first two and the last two sentences. The middle was one long torment impossible to convey in more details. Instead of the greeting, I said quickly, in response, something in your face. You imagine me differently, you replied. Frankly, I thought you'd be a little more fesh. Actually, you said something even more Viennese, but I forgot what. Those were the first two phrases. On which subject it occurs to me, do you know that I am completely unmusical? More completely than anyone that I've ever known. But with that, everything had been decided. What more could there be? However, We then began negotiating another meeting, the vaguest possible expression on your side, incessant pushing question on mine. Then my companions intervened, producing the explanation that I had also come to Vienna to visit an agricultural school in the vicinity of the city, and now it seems I might have time after all. They were evidently trying to take me away out of charity. I saw through this but went along with them to the train station, probably because I was hoping that such a serious intention to the poor would impress you. We all went nearby station, but it turned out I had forgotten the name of the place where the school was supposed to be. We stood in front of the large times table. They kept running their fingers over the names of the station and asking me whether it might be this one or that one, but it was neither. In the meantime, I was able to observe you. Some thought it didn't matter to me in the least what you looked like. Your words were all I cared about. You didn't resemble yourself very much. In any case, you were much darker, a thin face. No one with plump cheeks could be so cruel. But was it really cruel? Your suit was the same material as mine, also very masculine, and I didn't really like it at all. But then I remembered a phrase from one of your letters, the verse, I only have 2 dresses, but I still look fine. And so great was the power of your words over me that from then on I liked what you were wearing very much. But now the end had come. My companion was still looking through the schedules. We were standing off to the side and negotiating. Our last argument went something like this. The next day was Sunday. It was incomprehensible to you, to the point of repugnance, that I could presume you might have time for me on Sunday, but finally you conceded and said you tried to save 40 minutes for me. The most horrible thing about the conversation was not the words, of course, but the underlying tone, the sentences of it all. Also, your continuously unspoken argument, I don't want to come. So what good is it to you if I did come? But I couldn't find out from you when you might have these free 40 minutes. You didn't know, in spite of all your apparently intense concentration, you couldn't say. Finally, I asked, maybe I should wait the whole day? Yes, you said, and turned to face a group of people standing by, waiting for you. But your reply really meant that you wouldn't come at all, and that the only concession you should grant me was permission to wait. I won't wait, I said to myself quietly. And since I thought you had heard me, and since after all, it was my last trump card, I shouted the words after you in despair. You didn't care, however, you were no longer concerned. Somehow, I staggered back into town. But then, 2 hours later, came letters and flowers, kindness and consolations. Franz Kafka. She is toying with him. I think it was like but a dream, right? Or like a nightmare, I guess. But she's like messing with him. It's funny as heck. Alright, let's get into the last letter of the day. It is June 15th, 1920. Tuesday. Early this morning, I had another dream about you. We were sitting next to each other and you were warding me off, not angrily, but in a friendly way. I was very unhappy, not because you were warding me off, but because I was treating you like some mute woman, ignoring the voice that was speaking out of you directly to me. Perhaps I wasn't ignoring it, but just unable to answer. I left more disconsolate than in the first dream. At the same time, something occurs to me. I once read at somebody's house something like this: my beloved is fiery column passing over the earth. Now it is holding me enclosed, but it does not guide me. But it does not guide those who are enclosed, just those who see. Yours truly, Franz Kafka. And that was the end of the fifth letter. His dreams are the most interesting things ever. Especially the last dream where Milena was like toying with him. It's like funny as heck. But that was the end of the fifth letter. And with that being said, this was Letters to Milena by Franz Kafka. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a good day. Be good people.